Now, when it comes to how to be a good ally, there isn't a cookie cutter, straightforward, do this and that makes you a good ally. But there are things you can do that are more harmful than helpful. And I do kind of want to talk about that. Now, as a Black woman, a lot of my interactions tend to be related to being a Black woman. So the examples I'm going to use are related to being Black. So when I think about what it means to be what we need in the Black community when it comes to allyship is we need people who are willing to stand up and speak for us when we're not present. And if they have a platform to allow us space on said platform to speak our truths. With that said, if we're not present, being an ally for us is extremely important. I will give an example. There was a situation where someone was trying to be helpful. They were actively doing their best to be a great ally, and I support the attempt. The result, we're going to work on. So, the idea, well, what happened was they overheard someone using the N word, and they instantly were like, no, don't say that. That's not okay. That is excellent. Please continue to do that. The second part, however, is where we're going to work on it. The next thing that happened was they were like, well, I hate to hear about something bad happening to you because you used the N word in the wrong space. You know, you might get beat up or thrown in the hospital if you do it, and if you're in the wrong environment. And that is where we hit a hard no. Don't do that. I love that people want to support us, whatever the marginalized community is. It doesn't support me if you reinforce a negative stereotype. No blame, no anger, just teachable moments. The reason why that particular thing was so negative was because it reinforces a stereotype that Black people are angry, violent, and all the other negativities that come with the stereotypes. And that is not helpful. Another reason why it's not helpful is because it pushes consequences further down the line. And with all of us, we're human. So if you push the consequences far enough out, most people will find a way to avoid them or be like, I'll never do that one thing, so I'll never have to deal with the consequence. And third, it makes a situation where if they bump into someone who's Black who can't beat them up, then they don't have to oblige. And you don't want to do that. You don't want to make it so that in order for me to be respected, I have to be violent. And again, none of this was intended. The goal was, hey, I'm going to be helpful. I'm going to tell them that there are consequences for their actions. Let's pivot to another way to address that. Same situation. You bump into those people and they are saying the N word. Now, as a member of the marginalized community, assuming these are people who respected me, I would choose empathy first. Like, hey, how would you feel if someone said that about you? Like, I'm a member of that group. I don't appreciate that because it makes me feel this way. How would you feel? Excuse me. And we can have that exchange. Now, as an ally, you're not a member of the community. So being able to still draw on empathy is important. It would still be a similar conversation of, hey, don't do that. How would you feel if someone said those negative things about your group? And something that I have heard as a response when called out, and I've heard this said, was, oh, well, we're talking about you, so what's the problem? That very well might be said. And when it is, it brings tears to my soul. But the response to that is you don't have to be a member of the community to know that something isn't right. Like I don't have to be Mexican to not use bad language. I don't have to be Chinese to not use bad language. You don't have to be a member of the collective to know that there are words that are said that are hurtful and you shouldn't say them. So that's usually the best response to that, or a response to that. But empathy, as in putting yourself in their situation and looking for a human connection, is a better way to, especially if you're talking to someone who does have some respect for you, is a better way to change behavior than threats. Threats rarely work. Fear is not a very good way to control people. It doesn't last, And then it makes people afraid of consequences. So they avoid the consequences. They don't change their actions. So if you want behavior changes, the best way to do so is to start with empathy. So I know this is kind of a bummer of an episode, but when we're talking about, this is kind of a bummer video, but when we're talking about allyship, I wish it was all happiness and flowers, but it's not. It's a lot of difficult conversations and being willing and able to have them, and I want to help you. So if you're ever confused or in a situation where you're not sure, reach out to people who are members of that community and tell them what's going on and help them help you. We don't want to constantly be the only people, but I would rather take 5 minutes to explain what could be done differently than spend the next 20 years dealing with the outcomes of something having not been done. So, change your perspective. Change the world.